That was a major Yossel Hendricks over there.
All right, okay. What'd you say that was?
So there's a major Yossel Hendricks.
A Yossel?
A Yossel Hendricks.
Yossel Hendricks.
You meant it. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, kids. What time is it?
Time for Gezintahait Street.
It is time for Gezintahait Street. And the story for tonight, by the way, Shabbos is the birthday of the Mittler Rebbe. In 2 days on Shabbos, it's going to be the birthday of the Mittler Rebbe and the day when he passed away. So this story is called The Dream of the Mittler Rebbe. One time when the Mittler Rebbe was young, he had a dream. Once, the Mittler Rebbe dreamed of a river with a board floating across the surface. The Maggid of Medrit stood on the board, but it was unstable. But when the Alter Rebbe stood on the board, then it stabilized. The Mittler Rebbe told the dream to his father, the Alter Rebbe, who said, in explaining the dream to him, the river represents a stream of Balchuvas, of returnees to Torah and mitzvah, like all of us. The Alter Rebbe then told his son, 25 years ago, I heard a parable from my teacher, the Maggid of Medrit. A king had 2 sons. One stayed with the king and lived an exemplary life. The other left the kingdom of his father, straying far in distance and behavior. When the lost son finally returned, the king's love for the returned son was greater than for the one who remained home. The lost son symbolizes one of these returnees to godliness. And the son who remained with the king symbolizes a tzaddik, a righteous person. The teaching, the Alter Rebbe continued, made me want to bring every Jew back to his Father in heaven. For close to 5 years, the Alter Rebbe said, I traveled from town to town as myself or in disguise to arouse Jews to return to their Father in heaven. Years later, his son, the Mittler Rebbe, who had this dream, related this story to the Tzemek Tzedek, who was the 3rd Rebbe, and told him, at first, my father's service was to make Balchuvas, to bring people back to Hashem. And even after he became Rebbe, he continued with this work. And anyone who saw him just once will up the next day a new person. And then he added, and this power he gave to whoever he wished. So I'm assuming the Midler Rebbe means he gave it to him. Eventually, the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe, told the story to the Rebbe Mirage, the fourth Rebbe. And after saying it, he gave the power to make Baal Teshuvos to whoever he wanted. The Tzemach Tzedek added, in this story, one will find the sincere self-sacrifice of Hasidim, which comes to them as an inheritance. When the Rebbe Mirage passed the story to the Rebbe Rashab, from the fourth Rebbe to the fifth Rebbe, he said, with sincere Mesiras Nefesh, giving oneself away, even a born chassid can revive the dead. Meaning he's just born into the brotherhood of Hasidim. He didn't do anything to advance his level. But even a guy like that with sincere giving himself away can revive the dead. The Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Rebbe, shared the story with the previous Rebbe, with the sixth Rebbe. And referring to a born chassid and explaining what's a born chassid, he emphasized what a born chassid receives as assistance from above can't be compared to the heavenly assistance given to one who toils in the boat. In other words, a born chassid, who's somebody who's born into the milieu of chassidus. But he can't be compared to somebody who works on himself to make himself better, who gets more existence, more assistance. Nevertheless, even a born chassid who's not toiled in the boat, he hasn't done the service of God, can revive the dead by giving himself away when he helps another Jew to put on tefillin. When a Jew wears tefillin, his head, his heart, and the limbs of his body stay healthy. If he doesn't wear tefillin, God forbid, his head and his heart and all the limbs of his body can become sick to the point where he can fall and become a primary source of uncleanliness. That's what a dead body is, a primary source of uncleanliness. It makes everything it touches to be tumah, to be unclean. So he's talking here obviously in a spiritual sense. The point is, everyone can make a Baal Teshuvah. Everyone can bring somebody who's far away close to Hashem. If only they do it by giving themselves away with Mesiras Nefesh in a Hasidic and a sincere way. Sincere means, like the sages say, words from the heart penetrate the heart of the listener and accomplish their intent. In other words, when you talk sincerely to the person about returning to Hashem, it will reach his heart. And in a Hasidic way, means to forgo one's own needs to do good for another person. Like it says, a chassid burns his nails to ensure no one is injured by them, even though it might endanger the chassid who burns them. A Rebbe asked a question: what's the connection between tefillin and making a Baal Teshuvah? I don't remember who, it was the previous Rebbe or the Rebbe before that, said by putting tefillin, that's the way you'll bring another person close. So he said, what's the connection? An encapsulated version of the answer is that when a person becomes aware of his good fortune and responsibility to serve Hashem, when a person finally wakes up to the fact that they have a mission for God in this world, whether somebody else told him he does or his inner voice tells him, he immediately rationalizes. He says, this path is not for me. But why does he say it's not for me? It's because the desires of his heart overwhelm his intelligence. His intelligence tells him the thing to do is be connected with God. But he has desires in his heart which pull him away from that. Like our sages say, a person doesn't sin unless the spirit of folly enters. Therefore, the first step in helping the person to do tshuva, to return, is having him put on tefillin. The arm tefillin is placed across from the heart. The heart is where temptation resides. It binds the arm, representing action, to the heart with a band of holiness. Similarly, the head tefillin accomplishes his intellect with a band of holiness, allowing the true voice of the intellect to be listened to. When a Jew finally does return, which you help him do it by putting tefillin on him, Hashem reveals love for that Jew even more than for a completely righteous person. Like it says, in the place where a Baal Tshuva stands, a complete tzaddik cannot stand. Furthermore, the king, Hashem, recognizes his responsibility to thank the one who returned his son and gives him anything he requests from his full, open, wide, and holy hand. Now, there's an addendum to this story, a thing that is lost and found. Our Rebbe said, when the previous Rebbe came to America to stay, he made a proclamation. The sooner we do tshuva, the sooner we'll be redeemed. Someone told our Rebbe that a person who was not familiar with Lubavitch asked his friend, this guy overheard their conversation, what are these Lubavitcher Hasidim? His friend answered, they're very strange. They really believe that Mashiach can come tomorrow. That's us, folks.
That sounds like us.
Do we have a nigga?
Yeah, we have a nigga. Where do you want to go? What do you want to go with, Blake? You want to do that? That's the one you were saying before?
Oh, yeah, okay, we'll do that one.
That's an amazing story. I don't know if you listen to it. It's an amazing story. It goes through all the generations.
Yeah, get the dust. Yeah, take the dust off that.
No,
thing
no,
first.
just potato chips.
Is that what you are?
Let me get ready.
Oh.
Santa!
Bam, bam. Where we started is the ma 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 ma
Heard me tell that story. I don't have the lapel mic.
This one. I think you can hear though anyway. These are pretty.
It doesn't hurt for me to have it.
It can hurt.
Good night.
No, it definitely makes it clearer because it's closer up to you.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, everybody. Now, I'm wondering what's happening. We seem, as we explain about Chachma, Bina, and Das, we seem to getting less hits. I'm just told we started out with about 12 to 1,500, and now we're down to almost 300. I'm just hoping that the people who are watching are staying for a longer time and changing quality for quantity. Now, I just want to, we said last time that there's three things. There's Maimek, Omek Hadas, and Iyud. And Maimek and Omek Hadas is by the Rebbe. Maimek is when the Rebbe has a realization of the infinite light. And he concentrates on it because it's so precious, therefore he has a desire to bond with it. And from that he arouses his Koach HaMaskil to produce a Chachma and Bina, which contain that infinite light, and through which it's communicated. So the level of producing the Chachma and Bina, that's called Maimek. And then the real Chachma and Bina in the brain, that's called the Makas Hadas. And that Makas Hadas is the concentration of the point that connects the Chachma to Bina, so that you could bring out the explanation of Bina from the Chachma. Now tonight, we want to focus on the third power that we spoke about, which is called Iyun. And Iyun is not by the Rebbe. The Rebbe doesn't need Iyun. What Iyun means is to go over the outer level of the explanation, the words and letters, until it's understood clearly, until you reach the depth of the explanation. So it's exactly the opposite. The Rebbe starts above, and he brings the explanation down. So finally, it's a bina, where it comes into the metaphors. But the student starts from down, he starts with the metaphors, and works his way up until he gets the point of the explanation. Now, what we want to do tonight is we want to illustrate this amazing, what do they call it? What's that thing when you think it should be the opposite of the way it is?
It's what wie sagt man? No, wie called man das?
Intuitional, anti-intuitional.
No, it's I know the way you're talking about too.
Anyway, it doesn't make sense.
It's the opposite of what you would think it would be.
Right, correct.
Counterintuitive?
Counterintuitive.
Whoa. You thought he was just a fiddle
You
player.
see, for anybody who wants to talk bad about elementary schools in Tennessee,
counterintuitive. That what's the counterintuitive thing here? The counterintuitive thing is that Iyun, this going over the explanation by the student, has his source that's higher than where the Rebbe starts from. Even though Iyun is starting with the outer words and letters of the Rebbe's explanation, the source of doing the Iyun is higher than where the Rebbe starts. The source of Iyun is not in the skull where the Rebbe starts from, the level of Das. The source of Iyun is the inner point of the heart, called the Vanta de Liba, the understanding of the heart. And tonight we're going to focus on that more to understand what it is and how it works. Now, in order to do that, Reb Hillel takes us up through 4 levels of Chachma, the lowest of which is the flash of Chachma that comes into the brain, which is the highest thing that we deal with. That's the lowest level of Chachma that he's going to talk about. And to get an idea of how this works, we said that the metaphor for Chachma is an underground spring. So how the spring bubbles out of the ground, that's going to be the revealed Chachma. That's going to be the flash of Chachma in the brain. And how those underground waters flow like rivers in veins of the earth is the hidden level of Chachma. And then a deeper hidden level will be the aquifer that's the source of those underground rivers. So Reb Hillel says, to understand more clearly, by the way, do you have the file up? And you're going to scroll it down?
Yeah.
To understand more clearly how the source of Iyun is in the understanding of the heart, which is the inner point of the heart, we'll start by outlining 4 levels of Chachma, from lower to higher. The first is the Yud of Chachma, is the revealed Chachma. Whether you're talking about the revealed Chachma in the world of Atzilus, the highest level of revealed wisdom, or the Chachma in the brain of the person. It's called the Yud of Chachma, which, as we explained, is the outflow of Chachma, called a spark that flashes into the mind. And it's also called Chachma of Chachma. That's the width of Chachma. In Kabbalah terms, It's called the face of the Father. Chachma is called Abba because it will be the source of all the attributes of the world of Atzilus. And higher than that level of the revealed Chachma is the second level, which is not called Yud, it's called the Aleph of Chachma. And that's what is higher than Chachma. And this higher level is called Maskil, the power to bring out a revealed flash of Chachma. So the first Chachma was the revealed flash. Like in our metaphor of the spring of water, how the water bubbles out of the ground and becomes a revealed spring.
So Bitzalel, is this maskil? Is this connected to the koyach maskil, the idea generated?
Of course. In other words, there's a koach hamaskil, which is the undefined potential to reveal chachma, and then there's the maskil, which is the direct thing that reveals the chachma. And that's whether it's in the brain of a person or in the godly world of Atzilus. Like it's known, the yud of the name of Vayeitzei symbolizes supernal chachma. So the yud of chachma is the revelation of chachma. In a person, it's the flash of the idea as it comes into the brain. Now, the second level of chachma, the one that's higher than the revealed chachma, which is called maskil, it's a hidden level, like the underground springs that flow into the earth. You don't see them before the chachma becomes revealed. It's the source of the bubbling out water, but it's not revealed. It corresponds to our metaphor of an underground spring when it's still flowing underground before it's revealed above the ground. Like an adult, for example, whose koach hamaskil is ready to produce new ideas, but he needs to exert himself to be able to bring the new chachma from the maskil. And this second level of chachma, like we said, it's called the aleph of chachma. And in Kabbalah terms, it's called the two mazalos, Noser Chesed and Benakhe, which are the immediate source of the Sefer. Let's explain that a little bit so we have some idea what on earth he's talking about. If you remember, we said that the underground springs that are hidden in the earth are the source of the water that bubbles out from the earth. So the level that's higher than the world of Atzilus, the level in me that's higher than my revealed chachma, will be called the level of Kesser in general, and the hidden brain there will be the source of that ground spring. And the way that flow comes in is through the beard hairs of the man called Kesser. It has to come through a thin tube because it's so light and so revealed godliness that if it would be revealed, there wouldn't be a world. There wouldn't be nothing could exist. So it has to contract itself and come down through a thin tube, which is symbolized as a hair of a beard. So that will be like the underground springs that bring the water down from the source of the water from the hidden brain. And there are two of these underground springs, two beard hairs. One feeds into the revealed chachma, like the water of the spring bubbles up. And the other one feeds into the revealed bina, called Benakhe.
What is Neitzer Chesed and Benakhe? Is this the same Neitzer Chesed and Benakhe that's part of the 13 attributes of Moisi?
100%. Those are the hairs of the beard. And you see that in the fact that they're attributes of mercy. That even though you went against the Chachma, Hashem provides a way that you can connect to higher than that Chachma to bring down a new flow through those beard hairs. And I'm going to say fast the reason, if you catch it, okay? And if not, it won't hurt according to what we're
Can't
explaining.
wait.
The thing is like this. Chachma is a little drop from the bottom of that beard. That Chachma V'Tzilas sucks, gets its nurture from that drop. So Chachma V'Tzilas is a very squeezed thing. There's certain rules, it has to be done exactly in a certain kind of a way. And if you go against those rules, what do? What you do is you do tshuva, and you're able to reach these levels that are higher than Chachma. And how is it? You say, well, wait a minute. Even the levels higher than Chachma are bringing down those drops through the beard. So what am I accomplishing by going up to the level of those mizalos, of those levels of mercy? He says, because really the beard, even though it carries the drops from the hidden brain, actually grows out of the skull. And in the skull is chesed of Atik Yom. So that chesed overpowers any kind of judgment, and you're able to be forgiven for anything. Why? Because Hashem is much, much higher than any chachma or any rules or anything, and He has the power to forgive.
So is that why on Yom Kippur, the day of when we're being forgiven for all the sins, we say this 13 attributes, Hashem, Hashem, Kilat, Muhammad.
A whole bunch.
Yeah. Now I know why we say that, B'Tzalel.
And you know what's a cool thing? Between Yom Kippur and Shmini Atzeres, or Simchas Torah, I'm not sure, there's 13 days. Now, like in our example of the river, the veins in the earth, the underground rivers, that's the second level of Hakma that we're talking about, carry the spring water up to the surface of the earth, where? From the source of the water, which is the aquifer. Now, these two mazzos, these two underground rivers, these two beard hairs, are the source of Hakma and Bina. Because the father principle, which is Hakma, gets its inflow from the 8th mazel, from Nosir Chesed, and the mother, which is Bina, gets her inflow from the 13th mazel called Benak, which will be explained thoroughly in chapter 24. We're in chapter 1 now. Now, that's the second level of Chachma, the underground springs, the hairs of the beard, the mazalos. Now, there's a still higher level of Chachma, the third level, called Pella. It's not called Aleph, it's called Pella. It's a wonder, it's not reachable.
That's the same letters as Aleph, though, isn't it? In a different
Correct.
order.
It's connected, which is the essence of the Koach HaMaskil. It's not the Maskil, which is how the water is in the beard. It's the Koach HaMaskil itself, like the aquifer, which cannot be grasped, cannot be felt. It cannot be revealed at all. I don't know how good this is a metaphor. The electric generator in Niagara Falls, you can't bring it into your house to make your light bulb light up. It can't be revealed at all. It has a name of electric, but itself is not electricity. It's higher and removed from electricity. And he brings an example like a baby whose power of intellect is not yet revealed. But even so, the baby has this koach hamazkir, this chachma producer, on a non-revealed level. Like we see, as the child grows, his power of intellect grows, gradually becoming more and more revealed. And that revelation of the intellect in the child day by day comes from the koach hamazkir. In Kabbalah terms, this third level is called the hidden chachma, or of the supernal realm, called chachma stima, which lines up to the aquifer. It's the source of the flow of chachma, even though it's not accessible or realizable at all. Like when you get an idea, it comes from someplace, but you can't have any idea or grasp on where that comes from. Now there's a fourth level of chachma, believe it or not, like my friend Label says, I'm getting a nosebleed. The fourth level of Chachma is the level of Chachma of the essence of the desire. What do you mean, the Chachma of the essence of the desire? A desire is called in Hebrew a ratzon. And a ratzon is the moving of the soul to dress itself into 10 powers. Therefore, the 10 powers are hidden in this desire. They have to be hidden in there for it to know how to dress itself in there. Are you okay with that? Is that too complicated?
No, that sounds good to me, B'Tzalel.
Therefore, the 10 powers are hidden in the ratzon.
In other words, B'Tzalel, when you go to grab a cup of coffee, right, it's because you want that cup of coffee, and that's your soul expressing itself by wanting that cup of coffee, and that's what make it happen. Now, maybe it could be the soul wants to make a bracha on that coffee. I don't know.
But what he's saying here is inside that desire, there are 10 powers hidden there. The power to move to the cup of coffee is hidden in the ratzon. I have maybe a metaphor for it. If a lion comes into the room, you jump out the window. Now,
with all my 10 kaiches, with all my 10 powers, I jump out the window.
You didn't try to break through the wall. You jumped through the window. So even though you weren't figuring out what's the smartest thing to do, your ratzon, your desire to live, has a chachma. It's a chachma being that the place to jump out is the window and not try to go through the wall. So that's similar to this, called the chachma of the essence of the ratzon. And that ratzon, that desire, in other words, what's this desire? When Hashem tells the neshama, go enliven a body. The neshama develops a desire, because Hashem told it to enliven the body. So he has this desire, and the way it enlivens the body, it dresses itself into seichel, into intellect, and into emotions. So you have to say that the intellect and emotions are all included in that desire. That's how the desire knows how to go in this. Like the ratzon for chachma. The neshama has a ratzon, and it's called the chachma of the ratzon. The chachma of the desire. That's the fifth, fourth level up we're talking about. The ratzon for bina is called the bina of the ratzon. So every level of keser, every level of desire has a name of where it's going to be manifest. So chachma, which is hidden in the essence of the desire, is the moving of the soul, and it's drawing down to be dressed into the koach hamaskil. The fourth level now becomes dressed into the third level. And that is the real intellect. Whoa. The real intellect is the chachma of the ratzon. And in Kabbalah terms, it's called chachma of the face of the skull. The skull itself is not intellect, but it has in there the potential of intellect. In other words, for the soul to dress itself in the 10 powers of seichel, intellect, and emotions, it has to have a desire to do so. It has to want to. And for that desire to express itself, it must know how to come into the 10 powers, or how it would express itself. And knowing how to accomplish the move is this fourth level of chachma, called chachma of the essence of the ratzon, of the essence of the desire. Now, should we have a nigga to?
That doesn't sound like a horrible idea.
Okay.
Well, what's he playing here, Lee?
I got it. It is.
What is that? You need to sing a few bars there.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, well.
You want to sign, Rabbi?
Yeah. That sounds good.
Which one is it? That one. Is that one? Which one is it? Oh, Vayeitzei one. Okay. Vayeitzei ist das Name Bodia. Mit Vayeitzei doch Gott Name Bodia. Vayeitzei ist das Name Bodia. Mit Vayeitzei doch Gott Name Bodia. Ay you still got it.
You got it, Hersh.
Well, you do it now, didn't you? Come on.
Okay, now we can ask a question. Why did Red Hillel bother taking us up through these 4 levels of power? He started out to
Why did Tzadok? We have somewhere better to go.
He started out to explain to us what Eon is and how its Shoresh is higher than where the Rebbe starts with Maimek and Amakas and Ta. Now, for some reason, he brings us up through these levels of Chaf. And I believe the reason is he brings us up to the Chaf and Etzem and the Ratzon because he wants to talk about a level that is higher than Ratzon, a level in the soul which is higher than the desire of the soul. Like he says, every desire has to have a pleasure as its beginning. Why do I want a pizza? Why do I have a desire for a pizza? Because I enjoy pizza. Every desire has to have an enjoyment at its beginning to motivate it. Now, how the soul becomes a revealed thing is in its pleasure in godliness. That's how the soul becomes a soul. Before then, it's completely nullified and doesn't feel anything at all. And the first realization of the soul is the level of pleasure. It gets pleasure in godliness. And this pleasure, this level of pleasure in the soul, has two levels. There's the simple, non-compounded, and level of pleasure. And then there's the compounded, the combined level of pleasure. Are you following this, Gimel Aleph?
Yeah, there's a compounded type
the pleasure
and
of
a
the
non-compounded type.
One is how the soul gets pleasure in its own essence. And the other one is how the soul gets pleasure from something outside of itself. And that's called the compounded pleasure, the combined.
So
pleasure.
what does mean like non-compounded means like a simple pleasure?
We're gonna get the compounded, the combined level of pleasure is where it's drawn down to a desire. There's a desire for something. Why? Because the soul has pleasure in it. The simple pleasure is before it's combined with a desire. It is only the simple revelation of the soul. For example, I have pleasure in being alive. I don't need anything outside of myself. It's a simple pleasure. It's not combined with anything outside of myself. Then there could be a combined pleasure, which is combined with something outside of myself, like a pleasure in chachma, pleasure in doing kindness to somebody. That's outside. But my pleasure in being alive is a simple pleasure inside of myself. Now, even this simple, non-compounded level of pleasure, like my pleasure of being alive, has two levels. Gimel Aleph. It has its beginning, where the pleasure is hidden, and it's not felt yet by the soul. Which brings up a question, Gimel Aleph.
How can you have pleasure if you don't feel it?
The definition of pleasure is I feel pleasure. So how can you have a pleasure that's not felt? I saw by the previous Rebbe, where he said when the father and the son are together, they have a lot of pleasure in being together. But they don't realize it. They don't realize the pleasure they have until one of them has to leave and now they're separate and they realize how much pleasure they had.
But before it was unfelt because it was just a natural state, so to speak.
Well, like in my clumsy metaphor, clumsy example, when I'm not sick, I have pleasure in being not sick, but I don't feel the pleasure in being not sick. The only time I feel it is low Elena, God forbid, if I get sick, now I feel how much pleasure I have in not being sick.
Well, the reason you know that is when you ask somebody how he's doing, he says, I feel good. He doesn't say, oh, me, I'm not sick.
So there's that level of pleasure that's completely hidden and it's not felt. And what's that called? Tainu she'eino morga. That's the pleasure that is not felt. And then there's a level of the pleasure is felt by the soul very much. And from it is drawn down the level of desire for a thing outside. Like I feel so much that I like being alive. Now I have a desire to eat so I can still keep staying alive.
And a desire to eat something good. Then after that comes the desire to eat something good.
Just, why are we recapping? handicapping the level of office. I think I must have gone to the, I went to the wrong.
I don't know. It's the same over here. I think this is this looks good fine over here by me.
You want to go to a commercial?
I think we're going back to what we started with,
Maybe.
just to go over the whole thing.
Hey, hang on, maybe. No.
Let's get to a commercial.
Okay, do it.
Okay, ready. Wait, let me to stop the screen share. We can see you. Shane upon them, Froggy. Hey, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it, hey, I did it, I did it, I did it, la la, I did it, I did it, hey, la la, hey, la la, la la, hey, la la, hey,
How the supernal pleasure becomes combined with the supernal desire. And there's a pleasure outside of the essence. In the supernal world, the supernal pleasure is called the Ancient of Days, and the simple pleasure will be the Seichel of the Ancient of Days, called Keser, Chochmah, and Bina of Atik Yom. But that's too high and removed to be combined with a desire. It's still a simple pleasure. So how does the godly pleasure combine with a desire? Through the emotion attributes of pleasure. The emotion attributes of Atik Yom. Chesed of Atik Yom is malubesh in the skull of desire, in the skull of Archon. And Gevura of Atik Yom, Gevura of pleasure, is dressed into the hidden brain, what we call the Mochen Stama of Archon.
So this is what, in other words, how the pleasure comes into a desire, because you desire something. Why? Because you have a pleasure in it, something like this.
Well, yeah, that's why, but it can't come straight from the simple pleasure. It has to be a combined pleasure. And where do those emotion attributes come from? Chesed and Gevurah Atik Yom. They come from Bina of Atik Yom. That's where emotions are generated, in Bina.
In the mother, right?
Yeah.
They're born out from the mother.
Right, correct. So even in these levels, higher than the world of Atzilos, there is Keser, Chachma, and Bina of pleasure of Atik Yomim. And from the Bina of Atik Yomim, which is going to be that pleasure which is felt very much, Bina is a yesh, Bina is a felt existence, is going to be born out the emotion attributes, the Chesed and Gevurah of Atik Yomim, to combine with the desire. Because the simple desire can't combine with anything outside of itself, it's a simple desire. But from that felt very much, where that simple desire is felt very much, called the Bina of Atik Yomim, is born out those emotion attributes where there can be a reaching out to connect
But
with
Bitzalel,
a desire.
Bitzalel, if the first something is in Chachma of Atzilus, how can there be a 10 spheres higher than this, even in the nothing?
Well, who told you that the first yesh is in Chachma of Atzilus? First of all, it's a known thing, Chachma is a nayan, and Bina is a yesh. That's the first thing. The second thing is that in levels of ayin, there are also levels. Why? For example, when I have a desire for something, there is a chachma of that desire. For example, I want to build a house. So the idea to build a house would be called keser of that desire. And then in order to build it, I have to come out with the details of what's going to be in that house. That's going to be called chachma of that desire.
But it's still in the desire because you didn't build nothing. It's just in what you want.
So I'm showing you that the 10 spheres are also in desire.
In other words, even in what you want a house that's going to have walls and a sink and all these things.
So it doesn't exist yet. It will exist finally when I get around to doing it, like you're saying in the world of Atzilus.
So in other words, it's a different kind of spheres, but there's still spheres there.
Yeah, there's some kind of.
It's more refined and on a different level.
The only thing is, it's a pleasure and a desire for the revealed spheres. I hope that answers.
Yeah, that answers it. Thank you, B'Tzalel.
But the level of supernal enjoyment, which is simple and not combined, not these emotion attributes, not chesed and gevurah, not combined, which is called the simple tainug, that's the brain of Atik Yomim, the brain of tainug, as opposed to the midos of Atik Yomim, which are the midos, which are the source of a desire. The brain of Atik Yomim, the simple enjoyment, is higher and removed from combining with a desire, meaning it does not put itself in Soul of Barakah. So in the brain of Atik Yomim, which is Keser, Chachma, and Bina of Atik Yomim, is called the three heads of Atik Yomim. It's higher than the skull, higher than the desire completely. Now, Bina of Atik, this level, now he's getting to where he started what he wants to explain to you about Iyun. The level of Bina of Atik, which is the simple desire, which is felt very much in a person, is the level of the inner point of the heart, which is the source of Iyun, which is called Avanta Deliva. And in the supernal man, it's called Bina of the Ancient One. And in the person, it's called the heart's desire. It's a level of enjoyment which is felt very much, Bina of Atik Yomim, called the realization of self-existence of the supernal man. Question if this is called Yesho Amisi. That's what he says there. It's called the Yesho Misi, the true existence. which incorporates and nullifies any other existence. In other words, there's only Hashem at this point, and there is nothing that exists besides Hashem.
In other words, he didn't build the house yet.
Not only did he build a house, he didn't even think about a house.
He just desires it.
But the level of enjoyment, which is not felt, which is higher than being a Vatikyom, which is not the inner point of the heart of the person, is way higher than that. That's the level of Keser and Chochmah of Vatikyom. So in Atikyomen, in the simple pleasure, you have two things. One, the pleasure that's not felt, Keser and Chochmah of Atikyomen, and one, the pleasure that is felt very much, called Bina of Atikyomen, and that's parallel to the inner point of the heart, which is the source of our being able to do the Iyun, of our being able to go over the dry details of the explanation.
So this is the Avanta Deliba,
again, until it's understood clearly and we get the point.
That's the Avanta Deliba.
It's called Avanta
That's
Deliba.
and this is the source of the Iyun, where we go over and over.
It's the
what
source
the
of
teacher
Iyun.
taught us.
The source of our being. What he says, for example, he brings an example of a child who comes to a Farbrengen, a 7-8-year-old kid, and he sits the whole night at the Farbrengen. He has no idea what anybody's talking about. Why?
I know. I was there, Bitzav. I remember when I was there
the
too.
inner point of his heart has a tainug in the seichel, even though he doesn't realize it. It's coming from that level, the inner point of the heart.
So how would, like, when we learn a mimer, right? And we do, when we learn a mimer, we learn a teaching of the Rebbe, and we do Iyun, right? So this is what, because it's connected to our desire to be close to the Rebbe.
Is because you have a tainug in this seichel. Why do you have a tainug in the seichel? Because the seichel is bringing you the essence of God. And that's why you're able to do the Iyun, because the only way you're going to get God is by doing the Iyun and getting to the point of the explanation and putting your doubts on. According to what it says in Chassidus. Say again?
That's a song too, Aishi.
I need to wrap it. I'm losing a pick.
Well, and I think this is about when we started.
Yeah.
So we're up to tainug, the pleasure that's combined with the desire, and we'll start here next time. How does that sound?
That sounds good. This was a good one. But maybe we'll start here. We should probably review it again, go over it.
I think so. Maybe you'll go over what next time.
Good.
You'll go over what we did tonight.
Oh, that sounds good. I like that idea.
Okay. So what about a niggun?
Yeah, how about a niggun?
Take us out.
How about it would give me lots of simple pleasure if you would do your joke song.
You want a joke?
Oh yeah, let's do a joke song
about the mikvah being made
of
substances.
If the mikvah was mashka,
If the mikvah was mashka,
and I was a duck,
hey, I was a duck.
I swim to the bottom and never come up. Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get my key out now? The mikvah not mashka.
No, the mikvah not mashka.
And I'm not a duck.
Hey, I'm not.
When I swam to the bottom, tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get now? By John Lee Hooker over here.
What's the next part? Eibishter.
No, well, let's go to Merciful King.
Merciful King.
All the work is done.
All the work is done.
Don't you think it's time we can have some fun? Tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get now? I ain't lying. The people down here that tell me how long do I have to wait? Can I get now? Come on, children.
Come on, children.
We got ain't seen now.
Like the old people.
Tell me
How long
do I have to wait? Can I get you now?
oh, must I hesitate? Yabba-dabba-dabba-dee-dee.
Da-da-da-ba-ba.
Wee-dabba-dee-dee. Oh, must I hesitate?
Okay, we're gonna sign off song now?
Yeah, where's the G?
Here
This
we
is
go.
just a wake, this is Hershey's wake up song.
You ready?